Good afternoon and welcome to Metra Home Tech Tips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And welcome aboard. So Adam, tell me what we got going today while we're socially distancing once again.
Well, today is actually a good episode because we're going to be talking about HDMI distribution, the basics. And so we kind of want to go ahead and lay the groundwork for...
I mean, how to get from the warehouse to the truck to the job site?
Yeah, maybe a couple steps after that.
Okay.
Okay, so what we wanted to do is we really kind of wanted to get the general basic idea of HDMI distribution out there and just kind of talk about what is possible, and then we go on to a little bit more advanced stuff that we're going to talk about next week, which is going to be another fun episode where we're going to talk about HDMI distribution advanced, or a little bit more advanced concepts for it. So today we're going to be talking about some splitters, some switches, and some extenders.
Okay.
So
what are we brought to you by today, Adam?
Yeah. So today we are brought to you by, what letter today? What letter are we going to be brought to you by today? We're going to be brought to you by the letter S.
Okay.
Because
I'm game. Why are we brought to us by the letter S today, Adam?
Because we're brought to you by two products today. So today we are brought to you by the 1x4 HDMI splitter. This is the 5th generation. This is the SPL5. So it's 1x4 CS-1X4 HDM SPL5. We are also brought to you today by our switch. This is actually a product that's been out for a little while. This is the HDMI with switch with
the audio breakout.
4x1 with the audio breakout.
Yes.
Correct.
So there's an A in the part number.
Exactly. So this is the CS-HDM 4X1 ASW4. So all that to say, we're going to go ahead and just pretty much dive into what we're going to be doing today. So first and foremost, let's lay out our scenarios.
Okay, talk to me about what we have to accomplish.
All right, so we're going to start with the idea of just distributing some source to multiple displays. We have one source device and we want to go to multiple displays. Now, we don't care that it's only one source on all 4 displays.
Okay, so a gym, a church, a bar.
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to be able to do that. Now, most people understand that this is a pretty straightforward concept where I'm taking one source device and I'm going to display it up onto 4 TVs because in the AV world, we've been doing this for decades. I mean, it goes back into your days of the Flintstones where
we carried a stone around from one room to the other.
Yeah, I know. It's you smash the two of them together
and
you
made
got
sound.
The same, you got the same thing on both ones, right? Yeah, exactly. So
silly putty.
Silly putty. No, what we have today, of course, we got the splitters. So
well, now what's intriguing about this is what happens if you have televisions with multiple resolutions?
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of those out there, particularly in bars and churches.
So now, before we get into what our product is capable of, let's talk about what the normal solution would be in that scenario. So we have let's just say a Roku, because Roku has, YouTube and Netflix and all this other kind of streaming capability. It's got the different apps and stuff on it.
And DirecTV is trying to get out of the business.
But it's a 4K Roku.
Okay. So the good one.
Keep that in mind. It's the top of the line Roku, right? So, hey, Ed, thanks for checking in with us. Jumping out of an HDMI splitter to an HDMI extender with IR. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit.
Yes, we will, because this is a fun one.
Exactly. So.
And up my alley.
Exactly. So, in this scenario, what we have, of course, we have a 4K device of some kind, and we are going from a 4K Roku, top of the line, into a splitter of some kind, whether it be our splitter scaler or we're going into just a regular splitter. Now, the TVs, however, let's just say this client hasn't wanted to upgrade the TVs to the newest TVs. They just wanted to maybe replace one of the defective TVs or swap out one TV or maybe add an additional one. That we've only got one 4K TV and we've got a bunch of maybe 1080p TVs.
Okay.
So
we have legacy and the latest technology.
Exactly. So what are the problems that we're going to run into, Brent?
Well, the first one, and we've fought this for years with HDMI, is HDMI is a source will give you one resolution output. So the highest common denominator, which in this case is 1080p, is the highest we're going to be able to go for the entire system, regardless of whether or not it's a 4K television.
Exactly. So I'm going to, I don't know what happened to my markers. I think somebody stole my markers. I might have to track people down. So
I'm innocent.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw us here just a quick little overview of it, which, Brent, thank you again for giving us a new whiteboard. It's so nice and new and shiny. We're going to go into our source device and we're going to go to a splitter.
Okay.
So we've got a 4K 60. If you'll give me a top-down shot, that way we can talk about this at the same time. So we've got a 4K 60 device, and we're going into our splitter. Now, like you said from there, SPL, there we go. you're going out to, say, 4 different devices. Now, all 4 devices, let's say this is the only 4K TV that we have, all of these others are 1080p, right? Now,
Stop. I want to make life miserable.
do you?
This
Oh,
this
man, I'm
this
ready
is a
for
bar, and they've got a 720p in the bathroom.
They've had that 720p
Yeah,
since
it's an old
like the
Sharper
early
Sanyo
2000s
stuck
or
in the
something like
bathroom,
that.
yep.
And they don't
30 inch,
Well,
32
why-
inch.
And let's be honest, why would you spend the extra money if the TV's working fine, right?
Of course, it's there and it's fine.
And it's not a bad. It's not the wrong thing to say that, right? It should just work in that
32
scenario.
inches. What does it matter?
Exactly. So, like Brent said, we have a 4K TV. We've got 2 1080p TVs that are just older TVs. They've been replaced once before, but they've got that 720p TV in there. So, Brent, what do we run into? What's our
in the
biggest
old
problem?
days, first off, in the old days, if you had this, the highest resolution you're going to get from anything is only 720.
Correct.
Because the source would negotiate with everything.
Right.
And you may have had EDID switching built into your splitter or your switch that would say, okay, we're going to go to 1080 or whatever you pick. The drawback is this set's not going to recognize the data.
Exactly.
So the only thing you could do is drop the source down to 720.
Yep.
Which you don't want to do because you've got a 65, maybe a 75, maybe a projector
Right.
in the bar because you want to see that baseball game.
Right.
So 720 is not the answer.
Yes.
And this is a problem in the past.
Yep.
However, tell me where we are now.
Okay, so before we jump into where we are now, one other thing that Brent was just talking about as well, when you have a traditional style HDMI splitter, what it's going to do normally is it's going to find the highest common denominator. So if you have 4 TVs that are all separate resolutions, that 4K display is capable of displaying 1080p as well as 720p. Some displays, I don't know of any displays right now that can't display all the way down to like a 480 display. Or 480
There's plenty of
resolution.
displays that will not accept 480i.
Yeah. No, it'll do a 480p.
480p.
Yeah. So in that scenario, in most cases, you are going to be fine by having that lowest common denominator be highest common denominator be something like a 720p, and most splitters are going to automatically figure that out
Until you get to a splitter that has the 2.0 chipset in it.
right.
Which changes the world dramatically because that secondary chipset wants to take command. So if it saw that a single device
Yep.
can do those feature sets, which is 4K and HDR and deep color and all that cool stuff,
Oh yeah.
I don't care what the other stuff says, that chip's going to become the default,
Right.
and your life's going to go to heck in a handbasket
Yes,
in
it
a
is.
hurry.
Yes, it is. So, what I want to show here is, of course, in this scenario, we have 720p. This is, of course, our splitter here is just a traditional 1.4 HDMI splitter. And so that means that at this point, what it's going to be, the source is going to see this splitter as a single 720p display. It's not going to see it as a 1080p or a 4K because the splitter is doing all the auto magic, bonuses or extras, or should anyways, again, of saying, okay, we're going to be using a 720p display. Now, like Brent was alluding to, what are we doing today?
Well, today's the problem.
Yes.
Because first off, most of the splitters you have now will typically support some level of HDR.
Yes.
Which forces you into an HDMI 2.0 chipset of some variety. And these devices don't have a single combo chipset. It's typically 2 chips, a 1.4 chip and a 2.0 chip.
Right.
And as soon as that 2.0 chip sees there's a signal, even if it's not the one you want, that's where everything's going to go. So the rest of these sets will get blinkings or nothing or mode out of range or HDCP not supported or something.
My favorite is the mode out of range because most people don't even fully understand what mode out of range really means. And so those are usually the ones that we get phone calls about. By the way, I found my markers.
Thank you.
You're
Where
welcome.
were they hiding?
Somebody knocked them off the table. So yes, in that case, we do have, like Brent was saying, we have 2 chipsets that we have to deal with. And in most cases, that 4K chipset, the HDMI 2.0 chipset, wants to take priority.
Command.
And it wants to take command over the other chipset.
And it has a hard time giving it up
Yes, it does. And so in a lot of cases, that's where our AIO2 comes into play.
with the forced hot plug reset.
Exactly. And so after everything is turned on, you initiate that reset on it, and then it says, oh, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. You want to use the 1.4. You don't want to use the 2.0. Okay, let's use the 2.0. or the 1.4.
1.4.
Or sometimes it does what I just did and still uses 2.0 and really makes our life difficult.
Every time you turn the TV off and back on, it's going to attempt to do that.
Now, that was until now.
Yeah, well, September.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, September a year ago. September last year. Well, this is the HDM, CS-HDM SPL 5.
Five.
It's a 1x4 SPL 5. Now, what this is capable of doing is actually, it's going to be seen as a couple different things. It actually has a switch here on the front of it, and I'll give you a top-down shot so you can see what that looks like. We've talked about this splitter quite a bit, and this is actually one of my favorite splitters. Let's see you get that the right side
It's
up.
also available as a two-way splitter.
A two-way splitter and an 8-way splitter.
Oh, that's right. Stuart added the 8-way.
Yes, we did. So we have the 1x4 here in my hand, but the others do have the same setups on it. So what you're going to see here is this switch. You have mixed auto and copy. Now, in most cases, what we're dealing with here, we have our 4K display, a 1080p, 1080p, and a 720. Now, with this splitter, what we're able to do is we're able to take this 4K 60 display, we're going to set it on a copy. And inside the manual, it'll tell you which one of the ports is the primary port here on the back of it. In this case, it's actually going to be port 4 on the outputs is the primary. So you'll put number 4 to your 4K display here. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this EDID information and it's going to pass it back to your source. So the source sees this 4K TV.
For the HDR, the deep color, all the good stuff.
Exactly. And so once we have all that good stuff, as you say, on there as well, we are no longer seeing a 1.4. We are seeing a 2.0 chipset with the 4K and all the HDR and the capabilities and everything else. So it's able to give us the full connection.
And that chipset's on the input side.
Exactly. So the great thing about this is that the splitter scaler is taking that 4K HDR content and it's now converting it down to the other resolutions.
So the TVs negotiate per port.
Per port.
As to what the best option for resolution. Now, it doesn't negotiate audio.
Yeah, no, it doesn't do the down mixing on the audio, so you can't have a Dolby Digital audio source
Going into a Samsung television.
Exactly, and expect it to be a stereo audio source at the television. In this case, you'll want to handle all of that either through an AVR
or the source.
Or the source device, actually tell it to do PCM audio.
Which,
PCM
if you're doing distributions, the safest thing to do anyway.
Yep, exactly. So that splitter is great because you can have just about any resolution TV with that splitter and you're still going to be watching the same thing. Now, another fun thing about this, and I was not expecting this myself looking at it, there is no lag between the TVs.
No.
There's no processing time between the TVs. We actually had, again, we've talked about this hundreds of times, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk is our demo disc that we used for it. Again, brilliant demo disc. It's great to watch something at 4K 60, but it's a terrible, terrible movie.
But for around here, because what you guys don't see, because we're just shooting a very small part of the lab, we have a lot of television sets that float around on wheels and on tables and cabinets and desk and floor. And so it gives us the ability to do a lot of different things simultaneously to try to make life miserable.
We had a 480p TV that accepted HDMI. It only accepted 480p, but it accepted an HDMI connection. We connected it to that. We had a 720p, we had a 1080p, and we had our 4K Sony that's here behind us.
Yes, which is, at the time, 3 years ago, was as good as it got.
Yep, exactly. And we had picture on every single one of those TVs.
At the same frame rate.
At the same frame rate, at the highest capability of that TV that was hooked up to it.
And by the way, just for what it's worth, taking 4K down to 720, it looked pretty
It did look pretty good. It did look pretty good. So, as always, everybody, I'd like to say thanks for watching. If you're checking in with us live and you have some comments or questions, put it down in the chat while we're watching this. Hey, Leo.
Hey, Leo.
I actually got something for Leo. Which we'll talk about that here in just a second. But as always, if you have any other questions or comments, if you're watching this after the fact, after we've recorded it and it's gone live already, leave all your comments and questions down in the comment section. We do keep up with those and keep track of those. We are not yet to 900 subscribers.
What?
Not yet.
I'm blaming it on you.
Well, fine. That's you can.
I'm just saying it's your fault.
I mean, I'm blaming it on you. So I mean, at least
but
it gets passed back and forth.
It can't be my fault.
Okay. So
just so you know,
there, I'm just saying we're at like 890. We need like 10 more, right?
Leo, you got to know somebody, dude.
Pass it around. We're almost there. So give us a subscribe if you like what we do. Give us a like if you like what we've done today. Hit that little bell notification to let you know when we go live. However, just to let you know, we go live every Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Give or take a minute.
Give or take a minute.
We're mostly 3:01 now, so we don't have to listen to our... Remember, everybody needs to stay 6 feet apart.
Yes. So... Again, any questions or comments, even if it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, we are tech support. Leave your tech support comments and questions in the chat or in the comment section below. Or, of course, you can call us and contact us here as well, and we'll go over that later on.
One more thing on this before you walk away from it.
Yep.
It does include ear tabs that can be attached.
Yes, it does.
So it's very easy to mount this on a... Well, this is the hardest thing for me to do.
Lean forward. Lean forward. There you go.
There we go.
Ha!
There we go.
I'll take it.
There are tabs, and it comes with them and the screws, so it's easy to mount.
Yep. So you can mount this to a surface of some kind, and then you're able to put it inside the rack, put it behind the TV, put it on a piece of furniture or whatever else you need to attach it to. You can. Now, we had a guy call in. He had one of our 4x4 HDMI matrices, which we're going to talk about the matrices next week. But
an advanced distribution.
An advanced distribution, and he ran into a problem. And unfortunately, this is something that we are seeing across the board from other manufacturers as well. He had an AOC cable. Mm-hmm. In fact, he had 4 AOC cables, and he was running into a problem where they didn't have the supplemental power. And with the supplemental power, it was actually drawing too much power.
Without it.
Without it.
Right.
And so, now in his case, things worked out really well because his client wants 4 more TVs, and they want to, spread that out for other TVs. So the solution for him actually works out really well because he's going to simply take 4 of the 1x2 splitters, connect them to all 4 outputs of the matrix.
Which in the matrix has both HDBaseT and HDMI.
His does not. His
okay,
is the
it was
one
just HDMI?
that's just the quick switching, correct.
Okay.
And so in that case, what he's running into, of course, he will be able to power, because of splitter, a simple splitter usually has the capability of adding enough power to
any device
or for an HDMI connection. And then from there, he's able to give the AOCs all the power that they require and still get a picture.
Now, let's talk about that real quick as to why that's happening.
Yes.
Because we're starting to see this with AOCs causing issues in the field that do not have supplemental power. Now, the way HDMI works, we have a display and we have a source. Mm-hmm. The video and the audio comes from the source to the display, but in order to power the HDMI port on the source, voltage and current go backwards from the display back to the source.
Right.
On the TMDS feeds. Now, I honestly don't know why it was selected to go this way. The problem is this. AOCs, active cables, anything that requires power off the bus is pulling power off the display side. It is not pulling power off this side. In fact, it's providing power to this side. So what we are seeing is that when you have an AOC on a device like this and there's insufficient current at the display, the output of the source is actually choking itself, trying to get enough current to do the job, and it dies.
Right.
Now, we've seen it in a number of places, and it's fairly new that we're seeing this because the matrices have only been out there for 8 or 9 months, and this doesn't happen in a week.
Right. Well, and to be perfectly honest, we caught this in almost a fluke situation.
We got lucky.
We really did. And so in this case, all the stars aligned, and we were able to find out almost exactly what is happening. And so we are working ourselves for our matrices to, of course, supplement that power in a way that we can make sure that it's working correctly. But right now the solution is, if you're using some kind of matrixing device, whether it be ours or somebody else's, we highly recommend using an HDMI. If you're going to have an AOC, an HDMI AOC,
use one that has auxiliary power.
Exactly, yes.
Supplementation, or add a device in line such as our AIO2.
Yep.
That will provide that additional voltage or current.
Exactly.
And the nice thing about the AIO2 is it does so many other things as well.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and
that's today's tech tip, by the way.
Yeah, that's today's little quickie tech tip. We're going to go ahead and jump over into talking about HDMI switches.
Okay.
Now, the reason I brought this switch out is for one specific reason, and that's actually because of the scenario that we're going to be talking about. So, we have an AVR, an older one. I'm going to say that the gentleman who called in about 3 weeks ago, who had the one from like the late 90s, what brand was that?
Anthem.
Was it an Anthem?
It was an Anthem.
Okay.
It was like an AVM 40 or something like that.
You're asking the wrong guy.
I had to actually look it up.
Yes. And so we have an older AVR.
It was 2001.
Either has old HDMI or
No HDMI, which he had no HDMI.
Yes, he had no HDMI. But we still want to have 4K sources because we just got a brand new 4K TV. So at that point, we've either the client's gone to Best Buy or somebody else, and they've purchased a 4K 60 TV, the best of the best, looks amazing on the TV, and they plug in their VCR to it, and of course it looks okay because it's doing
like a VCR.
It's trying to do upscaling anyways, but can't go very far with it. But at that point, they're like, you know what? It's time for me to go ahead and upgrade to an actual UHD Blu-ray player of some kind. But I've got a really great AVR that's handling the speakers that I have in here. It's tuned perfectly.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome. I don't want to change it. I just want to change the video. So in that event, this switch is exactly what you need to use for that.
Now, and why is that, Adam?
Well, this one has one very awesome specialty to it, in the fact that it actually, does.
Don't buy that one.
Yeah, don't buy this one. This one actually does do audio breakout on the switch as well. So not only is it an 18 gig HDMI 2.0 switch, it also will break out the audio.
In what formats?
On a Toslink. So we're going to be doing Dolby Digital on the digital connections. If you change
digital
your source,
connections, you said.
two of them, right?
Yes.
So we have Toslink, which of course is an optical
My
fiber.
favorite.
We also have coaxial, which again are using the same technology. It's just a SPDIF technology for communication. It also has a 3.5 for stereo analog connection. Now, again, it's analog
Stereo audio.
stereo audio, analog stereo audio.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yep. Make sure you set your source device to PCM audio or stereo, or else you're going to hear all the action on the sides and you're not going to hear anybody talking, because all the voice in most cases is going to be coming out of that center channel, which with the stereo audio, if you don't have your source set to PCM, isn't there. It doesn't exist.
Right.
So
what else does this do for guys that have a brand new smart television?
So this actually also has the capability of doing ARC. So again, in the CI world, it's a little bit of the
We're not a big fan of it.
yeah, it's the black sheep of the community, right?
With good reason.
With good reason, because it's tried and true to not work every time. However, with this, if you have ARC that is working correctly, plug it into this, and you can actually, on the front of it here, you actually have an ARC button that will actually take the ARC audio from the display and break it out on the audio channels.
Does this switch come with a remote that has all those functions?
Yes, it does. And in fact, that means you can learn it into your control system like Control 4, Crestron, URC, RTI.
Are the codes already up online in a hex format?
Yes, they are, and there is a Control 4 driver for that as well.
And
on the
thank you
website.
for that.
You're welcome. I did that. It's nothing major. Anyways, so there's a couple things with splitters and with switches that you have to keep in mind. The biggest one being,
I'm waiting.
how many sources do you have? It seems simple. However, we run into this quite often. This is a 4 input. If you have more sources than the 4 inputs on here, you can't use that. If you have 5 sources, you can't use that. Unfortunately, we do get that call fairly often.
Do we make an 8?
No.
No, we do not.
No. This unit here specifically that has the audio breakout, we only have one with the 4 inputs on it. We do have other switches that are out there. We have a 1x2 switch, and we also have the 1x3 switch, 3x1 switch, and a 5x1 switch. And those are all available as well. Contact your
They,
dealer's
however, do not have the audio breakout.
No, they do not. So
The
they only
4x1 has the audio breakout.
Correct. Now, they are all HDMI 2.0, which means that, of course, they will work with
18
4K
gig.
60, 18 gig. So, with all that to say, Paul is asking about EARC. No. EARC is part of the HDMI 2.1
Specification. Well,
specification.
it's officially part of the 2.1. However, there are a number of 2.0 products. Sony, Denon and Marantz, receivers. I can't speak to Onkyo and Tegra because honestly I don't know.
Yeah.
but the Sonys and the D&Ms will decode EARC on their 2.0 chipsets. So it is a 2.1 required, it's a 2.0 option.
Correct.
EARC is a whole different level. It's object-driven, not SPDIF. So it requires a whole different processor. And you're not going to be able to come out of this into an optical or digital coax and support EARC.
Correct.
That's not to say somebody won't figure it out, but the thing with object-driven is it looks at the processor in your AVR and says, okay, you have turned on X amount of channels.
Yep.
And it doesn't just send left rear, left front, right front. It spatially locates it, and then your processor determines which speaker it goes to, not a specific data stream.
Correct. So it's not it's not channel based. It's going to be
object-based.
Object-based or position-based. So it's going to send the information about where that object is supposed to be in a 3D environment, and then the AVR handles it from there. So
that's why EARC does not translate well to this, where ARC is standard 5.1 or 7.1 SPDIF.
Exactly. So with all of that, what about Yamaha? Did you say something about Yamaha?
I didn't.
No,
what
okay.
about Yamaha?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, the answer is I don't know.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know.
He had a question mark on the end of it. Anyways, all that to say, so with your switches, they're actually more straightforward than the splitters, because with splitters you have to worry about what the displays are. With switches, you do have to be concerned about the different source devices that you have and what resolutions those are, but not as much so as a splitter, because of course a splitter is going to do the highest common denominator, or of course if you do one of our splitters, it has a scaling built into it. But with switches, you do have to worry about the resolution capabilities of your sources, because of the fact that we have two chipsets inside of the TV that you're connecting it to.
As does this.
Yes. So if you have a 4K source, let's say a Roku of some kind, you have a cable box, which is
probably not
do 1080p. It's probably going to do a 1080i, or even a DirecTV, Genie of some kind that has a 4K, which it's a 4K 30, but it's a 1.4 chipset, correct? Or is it a 2.0?
No, they do 2.0 because it does HLG.
Oh, that's correct. They do HLG. So in that event, what you may run into is that as you are switching from source to source, you may lose connection. Now,
that's an EDID hot plug issue.
Exactly. Now, the easiest thing to do for that, what you will find to troubleshoot this, is to take the HDMI connection from the splitter to the TV, disconnect it for a microsecond or however quickly you can unplug it and plug it back in. If the screen comes back...
Or you can do it with power.
Or you can do it with power. But this is primarily to find out if it is a hot plug. If you unplug the HDMI connection, plug it back in, and the screen comes back on, it is a hot plug in a problem.
Highest probability.
Exactly. Now, it's really a problem with the EDID. However, the hot plug is the way to fix it.
Because the hot plug forces the EDID renegotiation.
Correct. Or what you can do is you can take the power source for it as well, and we've talked about this as well. If you have a control system, if you take the power cord for this, or the power supply for it, you'll have the ability to have a positive and negative on both sides. And if your control system has a contact closure that can handle the amperage that's going through this, which this is just a 1 amp power supply to begin with,
5 volt,
you can actually run that through that connection, and you'll be able to control it through your control system. So just open it when you're not using it, or if you have a help button, and close it when you do want to use it.
Now, one of the things we do recommend, if you're going to do that, don't cut the cord.
Right.
We have adapters that we used on the...
Cut the cord, Mom. I mean, come on. Just do it, right?
Don't cut the cord. We had adapters for video cameras that in a lot of cases will work with this.
Yes.
And you plug the male in into the power supply side, the female in into the switch side, and you run a couple of conductors along the way, and you run it through a relay.
Correct. Yeah, that way you don't have to worry about making any cuts or slices, because in some cases you may have a power supply.
A coaxial cable instead of a side-by-side or lamp cord type.
Exactly. That way you can make sure that you actually have everything.
That is a coax type, and by the time you cut that back, getting enough copper out of that to do what you want to do and terminate it.
And closing it back up again correctly without the possibility
not a
of
good
shorts,
idea.
Don't do it. Use his idea. Go ahead and get those adapters.
We sell them here. They're in the Heist catalog.
Yep.
Or the security catalog.
It is it's HE-MFQC.
Right, because we had to write that down the other day.
Yes,
HE-MFQC.
That's correct. So use
male,
that
female.
I don't remember the rest of it.
What you said it. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, what I said was not the correct one.
No.
I'm not allowed to say it here on live TV, on live YouTube.
But it was MFQC.
So use that piece to go ahead and make the connections instead of cutting anything and splicing it.
By the way, you can also do that. You can do that with extenders, with splitters.
Yep.
And also, by the way, quick tech tip.
Yeah.
That helps a lot of issues with cable boxes. Guys that are running cable boxes into TVs.
Yep.
You turn the TV off at night, you turn it back on in the morning, mode out of range, frequency out of range, HDCP not supported, or black screen. You do the same thing. You unplug the cable, you plug it back in, or you power cycle the extender. Don't power cycle the cable box, because that's 15 minutes of your life.
Right. Now, one of the best things you can do, of course, or the most straightforward way to do all of this is to get the AIO2.
Yes, and put it into a control system or an IRCCUS.
And again, also, this is the AIO2 doesn't do just the hot plug fixes. It also does the EDID repair, where
TMDS, voltage and current supply,
exactly.
5-volt hot plug. There's a ton of stuff, and if you have not watched it, we have a couple of great videos.
Yes, we do.
On the AIO2, and we're shooting another one next week.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
On how to interface it with your Control 4.
Yep, with Control 4, and then we're going to be doing another one with Crestron, and you'll be taking on lead on that one as well. So you better get your
I'm
brush up on your
not quite up to date on that.
As always, everybody,
I'm a simple Windows programmer, guys.
Yeah, right. Everybody, thank you for checking in with us. If you have questions or comments about what we're talking about today, leave it down in the chat as always. And if you are seeing this after the fact, definitely bring it, talk to us, leave your comments and questions down in the comment section below. Give us a like, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet. Share it out to anybody who's not subscribed that you think should be watching these videos. And hit that little bell, give them a notification.
Yeah, don't forget we're trying to get to 900. Actually, 1,000.
Where else should they be sharing it to?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
LinkedIn.
Okay,
LinkedIn.
and
We'll
mostly send money to my wallet.
Well, yeah. So, now, the next part of HDMI distribution.
How do we get there?
The distribution part. Yeah, actually getting it there, right? Okay, so again, we're going to go into more advanced topics on next week's episode where we talk about HDMI distribution, the advanced side of things. What was it you said that you went into training one time and they said, look, we gave you all the basics about the, whatever it was, and now we want you to forget everything we talked about.
Yeah, forget everything we learned.
Yep, and so
because now we're going to talk about the real world.
Exactly. So, what we're going to talk about, first and foremost, is this is actually our new HDBaseT extender. This is the CS-HDBT2 UR-120.
And why does it say UR-120?
Well, 120 means it can go up to 120 meters.
At what resolution?
A very far.
4K.
4K, yes.
HDR.
Yep.
And how far is 120 meters?
It's 394 feet.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I looked at the back of it. I cheated. Now, it's also...
Did you see the eye roll?
Uh-huh. It also can go up to 150 meters at 1080p.
Okay.
So, but again,
a bar,
which maybe has like an outdoor seating area or something like that.
And you're using our splitter.
There you go. So, now, the great thing about this extender is the fact that you can go really far. Whenever you deal with HDMI distribution, it's always going to be the fact that I need to get that video somewhere, because let's be honest, if you're splitting a source, those TVs are not going to be next to each other.
Nope, they're going to be there, and maybe one right here.
Yep. So, by the way, Paul, thank you again for watching. And anybody else who's watching, Ed, again, thank you. And Leo, everybody, thanks for watching. And thank you for the question as well. The EARC stuff, this is, again, I want to go back to that real quick before we jump into this. The EARC, for me personally, I'm crossing my fingers hoping that it's going to be what it was supposed to be originally with ARC. Maybe, hopefully.
EARC properly implemented.
Yes.
Properly implemented.
Which is
an incredible experience.
Yes.
Because you're at Dolby Atmos level of audio.
Yep.
That's what EARC gives you, is Atmos.
Yeah, exactly.
ARC just gives you SPDIF.
Now, we have seen manufacturers come together and actually get, certain standards, so to speak, to be, in place and work correctly. However, sometimes it just doesn't. So, okay.
The biggest issue is how do you set the gear up for any of it, whether it's EARC or ARC. Do you turn CEC on? Do you turn CEC off?
If you are ever going to have to use ARC of some kind, our recommendation is to use the same manufacturer along the chain.
Yeah, so, display and AVR.
Exactly.
And since there's only one manufacturer that makes displays and AVRs, we're not going to pick a name.
Sure.
Tony.
Well, now let's be honest. You also have the sound bars that now have HDMI
LG,
inputs
Samsung,
on them.
Sony,
LG and Samsungs.
Vizios.
Their ARC connections work great, but again, they're all kind
And
of
I'm told
together.
the Sonos does. I honestly, I don't.
Roku does as
They have a soundbar?
Yep, so you can
Oh,
use
that's
the
right.
Roku TV and their soundbars. Now, I will say, little caveat here for that, or not caveat even, it's a great piece. If you use the Roku TV and a Roku soundbar, they link up automatically, perfectly. It's amazing how well it works. And we're not getting paid by Roku or anybody else that we talk about on this. However,
Except Metra.
Except Metra. But man, they work really well.
And a simple remote.
And a simple remote. And it's still just that one remote that
And
you use.
realizing that that's not a traditional CI customer, however, it is not uncommon. Can you take care of my kids' room?
Yeah.
And first off, I love the Sonys,
Yep.
love the LGs.
Yep.
But the Rokus, which are typically TCL panels, look pretty darn good.
Yes, they do. So, Brent,
Yes, sir.
now we got to get the signal there.
Okay.
Okay. We can't run an HDMI cable
Why not?
because the house is old and it's already got an Ethernet cable there, and
Okay.
they're not going to pay for us to rip open the walls.
Okay.
Okay, so this is out of the question.
Darn.
I know, because that is the best. An HDMI cable between the source and the display, or between the AVR and the display and whatever else it is going to be the best connection because it's the most
Reliable, and
Reliable
it's
and
the highest bandwidth in
exactly.
theory.
Which reliable and HDMI is such an interesting combination of words in the same sentence. Anyways, moving on. If you don't have the capability of running an HDMI cable, the next best thing is going to be HDBaseT.
Now, we do know this from personal experience because we were on a job site where a fiber was cut in pre-construction.
Yep.
Maliciously, but nonetheless, the fiber was cut. Fortunately, the guy that designed the system put in a Cat5, a Cat6, 2 coaxes, an extra Cat5, and an extra coax
Yeah.
to every television.
So, you know,
So I called my
my.
installer
Yep.
and Control 4 programmer and said, we got a problem. How are we going to fix this?
Yep.
I got these cables.
Yep.
So these things are incredible.
So, of course, when we're talking about the HDMI extenders, by the way, yeah, the experts are saying they have had good luck with ARC. They use Sony TVs with an audio control receiver.
Oh.
That's great. If it works, run with it. Because, again, it's a great piece of technology. And if it works, use
The
it.
audio control sounds really good.
It does. Audio control has some good stuff. Don't put their stuff inside of a
Cabinet that's unventilated?
and an oven. Don't put it inside of an oven or toaster.
Toaster.
That's what it is. Anyways, the link if lost. Okay, yeah, Leo, you're saying every once in a while the ARC will save you, but you just need to have a customer that is capable of understanding how to fix the link is lost. And so, yeah, you are right. Make sure that if you're going to use it as your backup or even as something that is going to save your butt in some cases, make sure that the client understands what it is, how it's going to fail,
And why it's going to.
why it's going to fail, and how to fix it without calling you.
And one other option, and we talked about this last week, or week before last, in audio distribution.
Yep.
If you have an extra Cat5 or an extra coax there,
Yes.
you're actually much better off going out of the optical or coax port on the television, going into a Balun, and sending it back as ARC, you know, but not as ARC, but like an ARC signal, to the AVR.
Right.
The advantage is you don't have to get into ARC, you don't have to change any settings, it's just another input on the AVR.
Yes.
And it works every darn time.
Yes, it does. It works really well because in those cases, you're setting the TV to do it.
Yep.
You're not actually asking it if it wants to
Yeah,
do
there's
it.
no decisions to be made, it's just boom, it's there.
That's exactly what's doing. So, in the event that you don't have an HDMI cable or you don't have something else to run the video to wherever you need to go, if you're using SDI for some reason, HDBaseT is the next best thing.
Well, it is the best thing.
It is the best thing. HDMI is the best thing.
Right, but if you don't have
if you don't have it, yes, correct. HDBaseT is the best thing for that scenario. So, the 120 that we have here, the 2UR120, is great for many reasons. One is that it has an HDMI input and an HDMI output on the transmitter.
So you can loop through.
So you can loop through, so you have a local source. Or if you need to go to an additional one of these. Now, we don't recommend doing too many of these all at once. Usually no more than 2, because you're asking for trouble because anytime
A lot of
that you do that,
negotiations.
a lot of negotiations, you're adding in variations in the HDMI signal path, which of course,
every point is a point of loss.
Yep, and your very animated and special way of describing it, of course, with the dollar bill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which surprisingly, I have gone back through our videos. You have not
Done the dollar bill.
No, you have not done the dollar bill demonstration. We may have to talk about that at some point.
Anybody that's seen me live knows the dollar bill, and we will do that in an upcoming, maybe next week.
Maybe next week. Okay. So, in the event that you have to use an HDBaseT extender, here's what you want to ensure that you do. Make sure your terminations are done really well with a couple caveats. Make sure that one, you don't use the pass-through style of RJ45.
It's not that they're inherently bad. It's just that your tool has to be really, really fresh.
This is a dead horse that we're going to continue to be on until we get it across and we stop getting phone calls about this problem on our tech support side of things. So we're going to continue to hit it whenever we can. Now, other than that, make sure that when you put it inside of the RJ45 termination, it's forced all the way inside. You see 8 shiny copper dots along the very front edge of the RJ45. And when you go to crimp that, you are left with a flat or staggered, if it's a Cat 6 connection.
But the lines are all the dots are all on the same line.
All the dots
because
are on the
if
same
they're
line.
not, your tool's going bad. And if your tool's going bad, your system's going to be bad.
Exactly. So, and again, that goes back to saying make sure that when it's time to replace your tools, replace your tools. Don't just continue to use something that's 20 years old because it's old faithful. It's been good to me all that entire time. It's going to fail you. Replace it.
It ain't about, it ain't like wine. It doesn't get better with time.
Right. Don't run your category wire close to power. We run into this a lot. Don't run too short.
Yeah, and what is the recommended length?
We usually say starting at about 40 feet.
Yes.
So if anything shorter than 40 feet, figure out a way to run an HDMI cable because you're just going to be asking for trouble.
It overdrives it.
It does.
The closest analogy I can give you is, and you've heard this when you're out to dinner with your significant other, in your case, Ralph, and you're having a nice, quiet conversation, and one of your drunk buddies comes up and starts yelling in your ear. Mm-hmm. Now, your significant other may still be talking to you, but you can't hear it because of the noise in your ear. And the exact same thing happens when light switches are turned on and off, when refrigerators cycle through, exercise machines. Oh, man.
Yes.
Those are bad because they just put so much noise out in the air that it walks right over the data on the category cable.
Now, I have personally run into that problem. I went onto a job site that was installed from a previous installer, and we had to upgrade his system. He was a component-based system. We upgraded to HDMI. Went into the theater that he had there. The equipment room was about 100 feet away. Replaced the the component.
Is this the one, two-floor one on the river?
Two floor on the river.
Yeah.
Yep. Did I call you about that one?
I went down. Yeah. I went down. I went down to the house.
Oh yes. Oh, that one. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Oh, no.
Not that one.
Not that one. This was a different one. So, but basically same.
That was
scenario.
years ago.
That was years ago. First time you and I met, actually.
I didn't know it was you. You know what? I still didn't know it was you.
There you go. Symphony Hi-Fi is saying never use the pass-through RJ45 tips. Always create near end and far end cross. They always create near and far end crosstalk.
Yes.
So
and look, we don't want to. We got to be careful in this because politically it's somewhat. But here's what happens. The short and long of it is when you pass them through, if your blades are not brand spanking new and your die set's not brand spanking new, you're going to wind up, it's like the old twin razor commercial where the first blade pulls the whisker out and the second one cuts it.
Yep.
It just gets thinner.
Yep.
And bandwidth is affected by this.
Yes, it is.
I'm also not a fan of the ones you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot in the blue or white package.
Yes.
Because the wires, the opening in the wire is a little large and the wire just kind of floats around in there, the hot dog in the hallway effect.
Right. So make sure that when you do it, we say use BICSI certified, BICSI.
Yep.
Because that's actually a certification for terminations. And we have sent our product, of course, to it to make sure that it's BICSI certified.
And use ours. We're not in the business to sell you terminals, so the price is incredibly right.
Yep.
We just don't want to get the phone calls.
Oh, well, and the truth of the matter is that we test all of our equipment with our equipment. So we have tested our extenders with our RJ45 terminations and our Cat 5 and
we
Cat
know it
6
works.
connections, and we know it works. So, now, Some other things that you want to make sure that you keep an eye on with the extenders is you want to make sure that, one, like we've said, you don't go too short. You also don't want to go too far. So in this case, you have 120 meters with 4K 60, and you're good.
Now, interestingly enough, when we were testing this product, and as he mentioned, everything gets tested here.
Yep.
We were comparing this product on this television with Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
Yep.
Using our fiber.
Yes.
As the comparator.
Yep.
And here's what happens. Stuart sets it all up, and he calls me in, and he calls Adam in. Can you, switching it to the AVR, can you see the difference?
Now, let's say this also. We are trained
to look
for certain things.
And we're a little jerkish about it.
Yeah.
That's the polite word.
Yeah, sure. Now, he brought us in, and how does this look? Looks great. Cool. What is it? I can't tell you about it yet. Go out. Switches things around, calls us back in. What do you think? Looks the same.
Now, and particularly because we know Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk way too well at this point.
Yes,
There's a scene when Vin Diesel's sitting under the tree.
Yep.
And you're looking at the blue sky.
Yes.
There are certain artifacts that are in the sky in the content.
Yep.
And we know exactly what the artifacts look like.
Yes.
And we could not see any change in the artifacts.
So the difference was, of course, he just simply switched out from an HDMI cable, this AOC detachable head shell, to our CS-HDB, I'm not going to say it. It's the 120 meter. Switched those two out between the two of them, and it was almost identical in the video.
We couldn't see the difference.
Now, going back and looking at it again, now that we knew which one was which, we went back and looked at it again to find out where those differences were. And if you had a side-by-side display, very large, you could tell the difference because there is compression on the HDBaseT extension. So it's there. However,
but it's display stream compression. It is awesome.
In most cases, if you have to revert back to using HDBaseT because somebody has damaged the HDMI cable, ran it backwards, cut it, whatever it may be, or it's gone bad and taken a spike of some kind, and you're left with an RJ45, Cat5, or Cat6 connection, and you throw this in there, it's for the client, in most cases, they will never know the difference.
Even on a large display.
Yeah.
Projection system.
When it comes to HDMI distribution, you've got three things that work for you in those scenarios: splitters, switches, and extenders. So, if you run into a problem, or if you are designing a system, of course, give us a call. We're happy to help out in the design process and the troubleshooting process at any step along the way. We're going to find some kind of solution, whether it be a switch, an extender, or a splitter, to get everything to work correctly like it's supposed to. You can, of course, call us here on the tech support side at 386-492-8584. You can email me at adamr@metrohometheater.com. And Brent, how can they contact you?
At 866-839-9187, extension 2203.
Yep.
That forwards to my cell phone wherever I am.
Yep, and you're available from
typically 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week.
Yep. Now, here at the tech support inside the office, we are available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, same thing for
Saturday
you,
and Sunday?
time.
Yes.
Yep.
Recently divorced, there is a slim chance, slim chance that I have a date.
Yep.
Very slim chance.
Yep.
But if you call me and you don't reach me, leave a text. I don't need your life story.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm old, I'm blind, I can't read it anyway. Leave your phone number and your name, and I'll call you back. And really, the time you called is a plus.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you for checking in with us today. We hope we've covered a really good. We hope we've covered good information for you. If you are running into problems, like I said, give us a call, shoot us an email, and we will go ahead and help you out as best as we can. As always, thanks for watching. Let us know if you need anything else. Reboot early, reboot often.
Make sure you got enough Cat5 hanging out of the wall.
Yeah, don't cut your wires too short.
Yep.
Label all your wires.
Yeah. I have an issue with one of my installers that
I don't know who that is.
Left me some unlabeled wires. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Have a great week.
We'll see y'all next time.